Welcome back to Rise and Shine Franklin County. Here on this Monday morning, we're talking with Dr. Church and Ms. Cosmato from the Franklin County School Board, and we're discussing, to start this show this morning, the budget. And Dr. Church just kind of gave us an overview of what we're looking at for the budget. So if you kind of break it down, you talked about the reduction in students, but that doesn't mean, and you've said this at the public hearing a week or so ago, doesn't mean you can just shut schools down. It doesn't mean you can just stop running buses. Because unfortunately that reduction in students doesn't happen in one community or in one area. So talk a little bit about that, how that affects the day-to-day operations of the school.
Okay. Well, what happens is over the years, since about 2008, we've lost about 800 or so students, and that over time. Mm-hmm. And so what happens is that they're not all at once, and then they sort of trickle out. Now, why does that happen? Well, we're seeing a reduction in just the number of children that are coming into the system. People are not having children as early. They're waiting later. And then also we have individuals who are moving out of the county, moving to more urban areas. And so the county itself is feeling that brunt because you have people who aren't coming necessarily into the county, they're going out. It is a phenomena that we have across Southwest Virginia, and Virginia anyway, because Virginia, for the first time, saw a reduction in the number of students. Now, how that affects is over time we start reducing, because each person is what we call our average daily membership, and that individual means so much money coming into the county for every student. As you have fewer students, you have lower state dollars coming into the county. We have reduced the number of faculty. We're probably 30, 40 down in faculty, and this year we're looking at reducing at least 12 across the board. Now, those who are listening saying, oh, I'm one of those teachers, it could be me. No, that's not how it works. It usually works with attrition. People are retiring and we're able to shuffle people around. It does mean larger class sizes. It does mean that we may have to do away with some of the programs that we have, but that's how we make the budget. But over the years we have reduced our folks. What happens in a classroom, though, if you look at a high school, it's over 2,200 students. We see a reduction, but it's not in like whole classes. It's like 2 or 3 students per class. So the same teacher has to be there. We have to run buses in the same neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. We still have to run a cafeteria program. We still have to have a football team, and everything goes on as normal, except that you have fewer dollars to be able to do it with. That, coupled with a higher economic demand of higher salaries for individuals just keeping up, we are trying to be competitive with surrounding counties. They too have had some issues, but they've also been able to keep up a little bit, and it's a game almost that we're playing, is who can get the beginning salaries up enough to attract the talent. And so we have a lot of good people who live in Franklin County and want to work here, and so luckily we have some people who just understand the good thing that we have. But we do have people who leave us going to other school systems, usually young people with starting families, and certainly the difference between going from here to a Salem, for example, is considerable. But we have made some strides along the way, and again, we do that every year to try to make budget.
And one of the things that we discussed before we came on the air this morning is the idea of compensation in a bad budget season, and how you're able to do that with things other than being able to increase in salary. And I think that you're part of a committee that's working on that.
I am. Our chairman, Julie Nix, is trying to finalize the details of how we would set the committee up. But our goal is to look at, as Dr. Church said, finding ways that we can compensate our teachers in a competitive manner and also incentivize them to stay with us, because we do have a great compensation plan if you follow it to the end. But what we want to look at is, are there non-monetary ways that we can encourage people, compensate people, recognize people? Because we realize there's no magical pot of money that you can just keep pulling out of, and we do try to work within our budget. I think Dr. Church does a wonderful job of keeping us within our budget. But it makes me sad personally to see our teachers leave and go to another county simply because they could make more money. Particularly a lot of these teachers don't want to leave. but they have to live. They have to put food on the table. They have to be able to raise their families also. And so that's one of the things that's a passion for me this year, is to see how we can keep our teachers, and not just our teachers. Let me say it's all of our staff. You know, everyone's important.
And you've said it here on the show, and different folks have talked about it, and you said it again at the public hearing, about how the teachers, a lot of times when you ask them if there's one thing that you could do, and they say take care of the paraprofessionals and the staff and all of that. So it's kind of like the board is taking that same approach that the teachers are taking.
We, when you think about it, and I remember when I was in elementary school, I just knew there was a teacher, there was a principal, and a principal secretary, and she was the person who patched your knee up when you fell on the playground. And we thought, well, that makes up the school. And at that time, it probably was the elementary school makeup. But now we have so many people who are part of just running the school system. You know, schools have counselors, we have family liaisons, we have social workers. We try to help students with their social emotional needs. We have, the custodians, the cafeteria staff, the special education people. And so there are just a large number of people who support teaching to go on within the schools. We have coaches who work with teachers, and we have student specialists who pull out students who need remediation, and the stakes have gotten higher. It's we're having to keep up with the standards of learning, and our students have to pass the tests to be accredited, and so it takes a lot of individuals to make that happen. And so the machine, if you will, has gotten larger, but for the layperson out there thinking about, well, schools, what do you mean? Your teacher stands up and they teach, and the kids learn and they put it down on the test. That's the way it was when I was in school. Well, things have changed a lot. Teachers don't just stand and deliver. We have a teacher, for example, is in charge of diversifying their learning. And they have to, for example, in a classroom, and I know you have connections into education, that same teacher has about 6 different learning groups going on at the same time. And every learner is individual. So that teacher at the same time with a group of 25 students is taking every kid at the same time and thinking, okay, what does this student need? What does this one need? How can I combine these 3 who are having a difficulty with fractions or whatever it is and help them? And can I have another a paraprofessional or another professional take these students and bring them back up to speed so we can get them back in the classroom? So all these things are going on simultaneously, but from the person outside, you don't think that. You think a teacher standing in the classroom, the principal who's in charge of the school, and that's about it. But again, it takes a lot to make our machine run. Well, that takes money. And that's why when you, I guess if you're looking at it from the outside, we are the largest expenditure that the county has. And it used to be that the state paid more than the county paid. But now it's the county pays more, and it's the state's fault. The state has not kept up with their fair share of paying that. But still, whether it's right or it's wrong, localities have had to pick up the brunt of that money, and so the community has had to do that. It's where the communities have lagged behind is where you see the drop in the schools. I'd like to tell you, our viewers, we have great schools. We're fully accredited, and that doesn't come easy. And we have a lot of good people who are working tirelessly every day to make sure that our schools are top notch. If you don't believe it, come from our schools and go into some other schools and look around. Look at the condition of the buildings in other places. But eventually that gets to a point where you have to put money into, we should be putting it into building maintenance. Now we're taking and we're trying to move some of that into operations. And when you do that, buildings start to deteriorate. And that's sort of where we are right now. But talk for a little bit. Of course, you know a little more than others, and with the teachers that they have a lot more on them than they did 10, 15 years ago.
Absolutely. And in our position here at Cable 12, I think we also get to see how far the school system spreads out. If you just look back over the last couple of shows that we had, Friday we had folks from the Moonshine Express on, the Historical Society. You would think, how does that associate with the schools? Well, first, I mean, literally using school facilities. But then one of the individuals who was on actually went and talked to the folks at New Tech when they were working on a project. So, I mean, you got folks going into the schools. We were out at the Franklin County First Responders Memorial. And there you have a police officer who's also the head wrestling coach at the high school. So it seems like everywhere you go, there's some connection with the school system, whether it be with an individual who is part of the school system, or whether it be with someone who's going into the schools and participating in things. I know that you guys get to see that a lot too, of just how influential the school is and what goes on in Franklin County.
And it is an interesting network because everyone knows someone who is working in the schools. You know, you have a connection, and these are your neighbors and your relatives who are there, you know, working with young people. And you know, we have I can't say enough about our staff, and whether it's, you know, people who are the paraprofessionals, and we talked about the individuals who come in and are the teacher's right-hand person. Again, as a perception, you would think, well, gosh, the teacher should be able to handle a group of 25 students. Well, sometimes you can. Sometimes you need 2 paraprofessionals in there because, again, our students come with much more as far as their needs are concerned. We have special education students who are integral in the classroom. We don't separate students if we can help it. And our students get the same education whether you happen to be handicapped or you have a learning disability. And some of those individuals require full-time people to be working with them so that they can be successful in the schools. So, but there's a lot of people that, you know, and I hope that some of our community, if you don't go to one of our events or a basketball game or something in the spring sports, that you take an opportunity just to look and see what's going on in schools. You know, a lot of good things, and if you follow us on our Facebook page or on Twitter, you're going to see that in almost every day we've got some unique things going on in our schools where our students are just excelling. And so, but you know, again, you gotta look for it.
And you're kind of leading into my next question. You know, talking about your Facebook page, Twitter presence, the opportunity for people to see what's going on in schools is at an all-time high. If you want to know what's going on in schools, you don't have to look very far to find that opportunity. How important, and I'll open up to either one of you, is that participation from the community, whether you have a student, a grandchild, a niece, a nephew, a neighbor who's in schools, or whether you don't have any connection with the school? How important is it for folks to know what's going on in the schools, and then in turn provide that, I'll use the phrase, constructive criticism, you know, to what's going on at the board level? You know, how important do you think that is?
I think it's absolutely key, particularly as Dr. Church said, if you're not able to get in the classroom, then when you can see a group of students being read to, I had the privilege of doing that last month, or when you can see the different activities that they're interacting in, I think it makes a difference because it's a visual, and a lot of people are visual learners, you know. They go by what they see and what they can learn that way. And I think particularly there's no better way to do a fast dissemination of information, but like a lot of other things, it's a two-edged sword. If the criticism is not constructive, sometimes it takes a little bit of finagling to overcome different myths and rumors that might be put out there. But I think overall social media is a great addition to the school, don't you think?
It is, and you're right. Social media also has the other side of it where sometimes people who don't know, you stand behind a keyboard and you have your voice, and but you know that's okay too. And I tell our community, and you've heard me say it here before too. If you have an issue or problem, go to the source. If it problems with the teacher, then go to the teacher. If they can't help you out, then go to the next level. If it ends up in my office or it ends up at the school board, we're gonna find out what it is and we're gonna fix it. Too often people work in a vacuum and they don't. They have an issue and then they say, "Well, I'm just taking my kids. I'm gonna take them out of school, homeschool," and that's fine, except for the fact that we didn't have an opportunity sometimes to help with the problem, and sometimes it's not an easy, quick fix. If your child doesn't like school, that's not an easy fix to get them to all of a sudden like school again. But we can work, and again, the partnership that we have with our parents, it's not just a matter of sending kids to school. and let them go, and then you get them when they get back and ask how their day was. In today's society, it's the teacher and the parent working together to make sure that if there's homework done, or that, you know, today, you know, for example, the young person had a bad day, something happened in their world, you know, when the parent can tell the teacher, hey, today, you know, this is going on, and little Mark is not going to be doing well today, and then we can work together, or the teacher saying, I saw something today, is that an issue? Or even to call home and say, I'm so proud of, you know, little Kevin, because he did a good job today, and then that can work on into the home as we build the child's self-esteem. So it's a partnership with our community, you know, and if you don't, you know, sometimes it starts just as simple, if you don't have children in school, as attending our events, and the play, which is coming up, the you know, the basketball game, the baseball games, you know, come out, be a part. Some of them require no, what we call a gate, no fee to get in. Some of them do, but get out there and watch young people do their thing.
Absolutely. And some of those great things that are coming up, I know a lot of kids are probably looking forward to it. Spring break, you know, that's something that's going to be coming up here in the near future. I think it may even fall when we were scheduled to be here and meet next month. So I think that's coming up maybe the second week of April, so folks can be getting prepared for that. Not that they're already not probably prepared for it. But
and that's just the faculty and staff.
That's right.
Now the spring break is something I think that we all look forward to. When we have bad snow, and that's the first thing to go. But we've had a lot of inclement weather, but we were able to hold on to at least a couple days in reserve, so that hopefully we can have a good spring break. We're getting closer and closer, which makes it probable that we're going to have the spring break. But you know, it's a nice time to get and enjoy the spring. Then it won't be long, and we'll be out at the end of May. We have graduation, and you know, people say, "Well, gosh, you start school awful early, and you end awful early." Well, there are reasons behind that, and legislation now helps us to make sure that, you know, we can keep that schedule. But you know, before we were able to start early because of inclement weather, and we still get that so that we can finish on the right times. But also, it's very helpful for us to finish the first semester right at the Christmas holidays, and then start them again right at the first of the year, so that we can finish out in that time period. It's 180 days, so 90 days on one side of the Christmas holidays, 90 days on the other, add a spring break in there, and that's our calendar. That's about as complex as it gets.
That's right. That's right.
So,
and you know, you mentioned graduation. I have a senior in my household, so the big thing on his horizon is senior trip coming up. They're going to Disney World. Yes. They're so excited about it. And also prom. He's still a little wishy-washy over whether or not he's going to go, but prom is a big deal. And I think we're all excited that we're having prom at Hotel Roanoke this year, which is a big change for us. Yes, it is, but we all kind of took a deep breath and said, well, let's give it a shot and see how it goes.
Absolutely.
So I know that the students are real excited about it.
They are. Tradition's hard to break sometimes. I know that I went to that high school, and I held my prom in that central gym. And then I know you went to your prom probably in that same central gym. And so, but it's a nice break to do something maybe a little more elegant, and I don't know, I guess air conditioning adds a little elegance to your to the prom. But you know, hopefully our students will be safe, and you know, we have students who will, you know, maybe drive together or have parents drive them, and I know that's a concern for our parents and our citizens, that people are going to be driving to Roanoke. But what we found, most people go to Roanoke anyway to eat
or take pictures.
And take pictures. And so again, they go to the Hotel Roanoke to take pictures. So that'll be different for us. Graduation will be, as always, on the field. We run it early, where I think it's at 9 o'clock. And they said, gosh, that's awful early. Well, we're trying to, maybe Jamey can help us with the forecast, but usually we're worried about it raining. And the earlier we can make it, the less likely we are to have a thunderstorm. So, but that'll be, you know, the Memorial Day weekend, and then summer, and then we're back at it.
Hard to believe. And during that time, we've got our spring signing ceremony coming up, I think, next week. Last that we heard, I think Crystal had 24.
So excited.
Student athletes are going to be signing their letters of intent. That's always a lot of fun. And then one of the biggest nights, I think, of the entire school year or when the scholarships are awarded out for our
Yes.
seniors, because it's always some astronomical number that comes out the following Monday of how much was given out just to Franklin County High School seniors. I know in the past it's been excess of $1 million in scholarships,
yes,
which
very
is
much
Excess of
so.
3.
wow.
I think last year, yes, it was.
It's a lot of kids, and we have our students are going everywhere. You know, granted, we have them stay local. Some are going to, you know, Virginia Tech and UVA and William and Mary and those sort of schools. But we have someone going to Stanford. We've had them go to Harvard, Yale, and so just our students are again doing well academically, and they're being recruited and pulled into schools all over the country. And also our career and technical students are doing well. Some of our programs are leaving our programs and going right to work. Some of them are going on to further school, trade school, Virginia Western Community College. And so a lot of our students, probably about 70% of them, will go on to some sort of higher education.
And that's something too that maybe we can spend a little bit of time about, is talking about career and technical education. We seem to have talked about that over the last couple of months, but I think sometimes we, myself, present company included, don't realize that when these students are coming out of high school, they're trained, they have the certifications in a lot of different fields where they can go straight into the workforce as a member of society who is fully accredited or fully certified in HVAC and the medical field, a lot of times that you see, and a lot of electrical work. I mean, you name it, the fields in CTE that they're coming out of high school and they're ready to go and start their careers.
Well, I'd like to jump in just for a minute, if I may, because we all focus on new tech and we focus on high school because that's where probably we see the biggest effect of it. But even in our lower grades, we're seeing a lot of the schools put in a STEM lab or a STEAM lab. And so, for instance, I mentioned the Living History Museum that I went to over at Boones Mill Elementary. There were second graders there doing PowerPoints that would have just blown you away, and I'm thinking, I can't even do a PowerPoint, but here are these second grade students, and they've got the presentation, they've got the video, the animation, and so I think it's important to remember that we are building them from literally kindergarten up to prepare them to take their place as productive citizens, and I think that's amazing.
Absolutely, and I've heard different individuals talk about it from the school board and from your office and from the schools about building that well-rounded student. It's, academics are important, but then the auxiliary things that make you a great student.
As I talked before, the world of education has changed. Where we had a student sitting in the classroom listening to a teacher prolificate about what they know, and then you put it back out on a test, is not how it happens anymore. Problem-based learning is the key to what we do, and STEM and STEAM and science and they're all important, but what it really is that you're not going to learn unless you're an active learner. And we've all sat in classrooms where we've been in la-la land because you just zone out. Well, it's hard to zone out when you're trying to solve a problem with your friends and you're responsible for part of it. And so and it's exciting and engaging, and you're actually touching things as you're working on instead of just writing notes. And so it takes a little bit of extra time to be problem-based. But what you learn is so much more. Think about what you learn on the job, and what people who are in our community, you didn't learn it necessarily in a classroom, you learned it by doing it, and also having someone there at the right time to give you a little instruction, and then you move on and you work as a team. And so those are things that are happening all over our school system because they have to. We want our students to be engaged. With that, they're better communicators, they're better problem solvers, they're good team members, and they're going to be good employees for the people in the community. So that's what we're teaching, but it's not like it used to be.
And you mentioned Dudley Elementary and their leadership. I know all of the schools have a leadership program, but I think Dudley's is particularly impressive because we are teaching these children to be our leaders, the ones coming up. Someday they're going to make the decision about whether or not you or I get something on Medicare or something like that. I mean, these are our future, and I think that we do a disservice to the community if we don't invest in fully in these children as we can.
Absolutely. And as I know we were talking about before we came on this morning, you're always working on new things. If you look back, as you said, these STEM labs, new tech, Eagle Tech at the high school, career and technical education, a lot of these things may be scary to folks who maybe have never experienced them or don't fully understand what they are, but it's something that the board and the school system has been able to move forward with, and now we're seeing the benefits of it. Is there anything that's kind of on the horizon that you're looking into that maybe the public could put some public input into as we're looking to move forward into next school year and years down the road?
Well, one of the things that we've talked about for decades now is to increase our career and technical education offerings. We still have career and technical education going on, and there's a lot of things that are going on. However, our facilities are just grossly inadequate. Mm-hmm. And with that, we've talked about, and the Board of Supervisors has talked about, isn't it time that we invest in our students who are learning a trade or who are, learning health, and they're going to go on to higher education in the technical health fields. And so that's going to take an investment from our community. It doesn't come cheap. For the right kind of facility and the right kind of labs that we have, we need to be able to build it so that our students are able to learn in environments that help them learn more. I'm going to use automotive as my example. In our automotive lab, we have 3 bays. If you ride by past Hardee's, you look to your right, you're going to see, oftentimes students with cars in the parking lot. The reason is that that's our auto lab. The 3 bays, not all of them, just the 3 bays are automotive. We have classroom with little chairs that they put in a circle underneath a bay so that they can have class. They move some of the equipment out into the parking lot so they can lower the car so they can work on it. And so that's just one example where we're teaching automotive, but imagine what we could do with a correct facility. It's not even the equipment. I mean, we can find money sometimes for equipment. Our problem is we need a facility that's built for that. For our construction labs, we teach construction topics, and so we do some of those things. We just do it in a shoebox. Mm-hmm. And so that's our problem, is that with the right kind of facility, then we can look at maybe expanding into some of the things like robotics, pneumatics, welding. Our community needs those individuals. Mm-hmm. We just don't have a spot for it. A lot of communities are having what we call maker spaces, where for the community, they're coming in and the community comes in and the equipment's there and someone who knows how to run it is there, and they're teaching our community, and they're able to come in and do projects or work on things. And we've been approached to say, gosh, you all need to have a maker space. And sometimes schools have that facility. Unfortunately, our facilities are so inadequate that we can't even help our community with that because it's just not large enough. So for our community, we really do need to invest in our students and these are the silent majority of people who are going to take technical training beyond high school and technical training in high school, not necessarily the ones that are going to get the college degree. The focus has always been, well, this kid's going to this college or this kid's going to this college. Sometimes we should be putting some of our effort into the kids who are going to be just productive members of our community, who are the ones who are going to come and fix your plumbing, mm-hmm. and who are going to put on your roof, and the ones who are going to be there taking care of you in a hospital. So that's where a focus, I hope, that our community looks at. And sometimes it's a matter of when it comes down to when people say, are you willing to put forth some more tax money to help do this? Well, it's important to our community. Mm-hmm. Maybe you will push that way, and tell your Board of Supervisors member that you support the building projects, and maybe we can get something going.
Mm-hmm. And I think, again, being here in our situation at Cable 12, we get the different announcements in, we get different pictures and videos in from around the community, but I think that sometimes we as community members forget how intertwined we are with the school system. If you just look back over the last couple of weeks, Friday night you had a big Daly and Vincent concert to promote the Rocky Mountain Lions Club, a fundraiser for them, at a Franklin County facility there in the auditorium. You have different other fundraisers, Dancing for a Cause, and I'm going to miss probably half of the things that go on there. Mm-hmm. As we look at basketball season and different things like that, Parks and Recreation, using school facilities.
The Rotary Independence Day Festival.
Yes.
And we have all that on one field. And so the football field, soccer, lacrosse, everyone uses that stadium. And imagine what we could do with some turf.
Sure.
And so that's an expense, but a necessary thing, because we have to baby that field, because it doesn't take long for people to beat down the grass, and then we're back to trying to reseed it again.
Absolutely. And if you have the opportunity to go to different stadiums and stuff like that, as we do with during football season, you really start to appreciate what you have at Franklin County, the beauty of the stadium that we have there. Like you said, always steps that you can take to make it better, but you guys are doing a great job with what you have, and we see that each month when a different member of the elementary schools come in, or middle school or high school, and just how well spoken they are, as you said, and their ability to speak in public. And the things that they're doing at second, third, fourth, fifth grade levels is mind-blowing. Was there anything else that you would think you would like to say to the public? Or?
Well, you mentioned technology and the fear of technology, and I think particularly as you get a little older, there is a fear of technology, but that's where social media can really come in and can really shine, because those of us that aren't as technologically oriented as others, you can go on and you can see what these children are doing, and I think it helps really illustrate it.
It does.
And just as a funny aside, on the board, we really, as you said, we worried about the driving and we worried about getting the students there. But when I was discussing it with my grandson on whether or not he wanted to go, and he said he didn't feel comfortable driving to Roanoke, and all of a sudden it was like a light bulb. I said, I could pay for you to go by Uber. And I hadn't even thought about that when we were having the discussion. So just technology is new, it is scary, and sometimes you don't even think about how to utilize it, but there it is and it's available for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for coming out bright and early on this Monday morning to, again, just tell us about the great things going on with the schools, and especially from the level that you guys get to see it from that top down. It gives a little bit of a different perspective. And as we said, right in the middle of budget season, you guys have, as we said, kind of wrapped up your portion of it. Board of Supervisors meeting will be tomorrow night, which is Tuesday night. I believe I'm correct on that, right?
I think it's earlier in the day.
Well, yeah, Tuesday afternoon.
Tuesday afternoon is when we present.
So if you haven't had an opportunity to look at the proposed budget from the school system, that's available on our website. You can just click on the link there. It'll take you straight through. If you're the type of person that likes to look at every line item, every number, it's available there for you to see. Very transparent. If you're like me, you just read the executive summary and and take it for that. But again, if you have that opportunity between now and tomorrow, and you have an opinion on it, call your Board of Supervisor member. Let them know how you feel, because again, it's not the only issue they're going to be facing tomorrow. They've got all the other things that they've got to put with the budget, but just give them a little bit of help and a little bit of guidance when it comes to that, and just be a productive member of society is pretty much what we're trying to say and participate in. So again, we thank you guys for coming out, and
thank you for your continued support of our schools.
And thank you for inviting us.
Absolutely.